Airline pilots are forced to retire at age 65. Federal law enforcement officers, 57. Judges here in South Carolina, 72.
What?
Have you ever noticed that politicians hardly ever retire? Our country and our state are being run by a geriatric oligarchy. People who stay in office way past their prime.
That is an ad by Joe Cunningham, who is the Democratic nominee for governor in South Carolina, who has identified that, yes, we do have a lot of older politicians, but he doesn't just want to identify it, he wants to do something about it. Listen to this.
That's why it's time to put term limits and age limits on politicians. It'll bring new blood and new ideas to the table. That's why I want to legalize marijuana and sports betting and then use that money to give our teachers a raise and fix our roads. Let's fight climate change and put people to work while doing it. And how about this? Let's move towards eliminating the state income tax to keep more money in your pocket.
Okay, so we included that last bit there because I don't know a lot about Joe Cunningham, but like, okay, so you want to legalize marijuana? That's good, that's good. And then getting rid of the state income tax. Okay, so things get a little bit complicated there, but we're setting aside that for now. Let's talk about this, Ida. He wants not only term limits, which lots of politicians before they get into office advocate for that. I don't know him, maybe he still will in 20 years. Usually once they get into elected office, they stop talking about that. That's not too crazy though, talking about term limits, but talking about age limits is not something generally that you hear a lot about, particularly from major party candidates for governor. What do you think about that?
You know, even though it falls into the category of ageism, I see his point because there's a commonality in the thinking of people that fall into this certain demographic and how they've been affecting our country, and they bring their old ways and they don't want to make change. And then a lot of those older white men that he's talking about are sitting like fat rats collecting these checks from these corporations and not wanting to make changes because they don't want to let go of their generational wealth. They want to ensure that their children and their children's children continue to have what they have while the other people struggle. And in South Carolina in particular, where the education system is so lacking and the cost of living versus the income, the average income in that place, the struggle that is real in a place called South Carolina. I'm really impressed to hear someone. It's very refreshing to hear someone with a Southern drawl talk about climate change in a way that is affirming that it's real and saying that they want to legalize marijuana. And so, I think that we've gotten such into this culture of the takedown. It's going to take all hands on deck. And someone that's leaning towards progress is always better than the people who are trying to prevent it at all costs.
I agree with you. Yeah, I need to look more into him. When he goes into getting rid of the state income tax, that worries me a little bit because I don't know how that necessarily advances those other goals or whatever. But it is interesting, and he is coming with fresh ideas. I will give my take on whether it makes sense to have these age limits in one sec. First, I do want to lay out the data. So does he have a point? Do we have really? I mean, we know anecdotally we have a lot of old elected officials, but here's a breakdown of the different chambers of commerce. Half of the Senate is 65 years or older. 32% of the House is, and you can see the breakdown for the different parties. 54% of Senate Republicans are that old, and it isn't just that they're old. Let's be clear, they're getting older. I mean, we all are in a very real sense. We're all aging. We're all hurtling towards being decrepit and out of touch and everything, but them especially. If you look at this, here's a chart of the average age of the Senate and the House over time. So the average age of the Senate is 63.9, the House is 58.3. Those are each about 4.5 years older on average than they were just 2 decades ago. And I actually, I don't have it in fun chart form, but I looked at the data for as far back as 20 years prior to that. So 1980 to 1982, the average age of US senators was 47. That's like a kind of young senator now. 47, now it's 64 and a half. That is a big difference, and it is changing. And now with all that said, all that laid out, no, I don't support it. Maybe term limits, I could kind of see that. But the age limit, Because the issue, like everything that Ida said, I agree with you, Ida. I do think that there is a predisposition towards getting out of touch, not being willing to rethink things. I agree with all of that. But the issue is that almost like when I critique the Uvalde response being too much about the cops rather than the guns, because I don't think the cops at the end of the day are like better cops aren't the solution to gun violence. Making it all about the age is a thing. It does matter for some, but compared to money, compared to ideology, like under his rules, Bernie Sanders wouldn't be able to run again, but Kirsten Sinema would be totally fine. Like that's the thing that we don't need. Like, should we have younger representation? Totally, we should. But what we need isn't necessarily younger representation. It's better representation that's not been bought by the big interests. And yeah. So what do you think?
No, I said I agree. I think balance is the utmost necessity for anything that's going to function properly. And I think that, of course, Bernie Sanders is in that age range of the people that he's trying to eliminate. And I don't agree with setting an age limit, but I do believe that there needs to be some sort of balancing of the floor, because we need to have all types of people in the body of government that represents us all, and they don't. And the majority of them are Mitch McConnell looking people that tweet ridiculous things and are completely out of touch with the regular average American person that has to go to work every day, because they've been getting money for so long. They're not even, you talk about celebrities being disconnected. Those are the celebrities of government. Those people are completely disconnected from the reality of those of us who have to show up and work every day. And those people have had great educations. They live in the best neighborhoods. They have the best healthcare. They have the best lives. And then they have an active push against education and healthcare for everybody else. It's just not them. So a lot of those people need to be eliminated. I don't know if that's the smartest way to get rid of those people, because then we get rid of the people who are on the side of good for the Americans. But I do think that there needs to be some sort of balance, because it's just disgusting. It's egregious, and it's tiresome. The American people are tired. I can say that from talking to anybody, no matter what side of the political aisle they're on. Everybody is tired.
I agree. I feel it. Look at my face right now. Look at this. I mean, I'm not saying I looked great a couple of years ago or anything, but it was better than this. Come on.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.